Hello. In this video I'm going to show you how to make a key tag like you might run as a 1 or 2 lesson project with a junior class. So the point is just to step you through the process of creating the artwork and setting up the preferences and then actually running the laser cutting machine. So some software you're going to need. First of all, you'll need Adobe Illustrator. Now you can download a copy of that. Students and teachers have a license for all of the Adobe Creative Suite programs, so download that. The other one you're going to need is a bit obscure. It's this Universal Control Panel from Universal Laser Systems. You can search for that yourself. This is what it looks like, straight out of 1996. But I have placed the installer file here on Teams, and the TAS faculty Teams in the file section, so that's probably easiest. This software is already installed on the desktop computer that's connected to the laser, or is next to the laser in C1, so you can just use it there, but I find it handy to have it on my own machine. Now, today I'm just going to use a pre-existing template for Illustrator. You can see I have a couple of them here on my desktop. They're also here on Teams. So the laser template, this one is just the full size of the bed of the laser, and these other ones are smaller artboards for smaller projects. So today I'm going to open up the key tag one. So let's do that. I'm going to go File, New From Template, and then I just navigate to where that template file is saved. In this case it's on my desktop. Just pausing here to add that I usually place those template files on Canvas for students to access, so they download the template file, open it on their machine and start work from there. So there we go. I'll open that up. Now this artboard is that size that I set it up to be. I think it's about 70 millimeters by 30, something like that. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is draw a rectangle. Now the rectangle is going to form the outline of my key tag, and this is what the laser is actually going to cut. Let's round the corners a little bit so it doesn't dig into my pocket. Alright, now the laser takes specific colours and weights of lines to mean different things. So in this case we're going to change the colour, the stroke, which is the line around the outside. We're going to change that to red. And it's got to be RGB red. That's why this template file exists. It has the correct colors set up. I will show you how to make template files in another video. And I'm going to change the weight of that line to 0.01 millimeters. I think it has to be less than 1/1000th of an inch. It's an American machine, but 0.01 millimeters works. And there we go. So that's the outline done. Let's say I wanted a border around the inside, just an engraved line. You could just draw another rounded corner rectangle, but I'm going to just copy that, Control C, paste, Control V. I've now got 2 copies of that same shape, but I want to make it a bit smaller. So that one was 73 millimeters, so let's change it to, I don't know, 68 millimeters. I'll leave the height and width locked together here so they're in proportion. There we go. Now you can position that so that they're lined up with each other nicely. Let's do it this way. If I select them both, hold shift and select them both, you get these little align tools here. Horizontal align, vertical align. Beautiful, except my proportions look a bit messy. I don't like that, so I'm going to change this to 28. No, wait, let's go 24 millimeters. Beautiful. That looks somewhat better. Okay. So the problem here is that they're both cut instructions now, so the middle would fall out of my key ring, my key tag. Don't want that, so let's change the color here from red to blue. Red is vector cut, that means the laser traces that line and cuts through. Blue is vector engrave, which means the laser traces the line and engraves just a certain depth. And black, anything black or any shade of grey, or in fact I think any other color, it will operate basically like it's a bitmap image, and the laser will go and engrave the different pixels of the image to a different density or a different color intensity depending on how dark the color is. That'll make more sense in a minute. Alright, I need a hole so I can hang this on a key ring. I'm just going to use the ellipse tool here and hold shift to draw a circle. I want that to be a cut instruction, and you could edit the exact diameter of that there if you wish. Stick that a bit close to the corner. Now, note here how I have that shape. It has a fill of white. You're better off generally not having a fill on anything. So what I'll do is I'll actually select all of my shapes so far, and I'll get rid of the fill. We don't want any fill at the moment for this task. So there it is. You can see here, if I zoom in, my engraved line is going to pass through that hole, but that just means the laser will cut that out and that little bit will fall out. No issue. Okay, so by the way, to pan your page around, I'm just using the middle mouse button, clicking and holding it. To scroll, you hold Alt on the keyboard. To zoom, you hold Alt on the keyboard and scroll. Scrolling normally does what you'd expect. Scrolling with Control is left and right. So that's the Adobe standards, I think. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to throw some text on here. Text tool, so keys, that'll do. Alright, what else do I want? I want an image. So I've got a little image sitting here on my desktop. I'm just going to copy that and paste it in. It's even a reasonable size. You can get students to download whatever artwork they want. In general, images with high contrast works better because the laser, you know, it either burns the surface or doesn't burn the surface, and there are graduations within. So you'll experiment with things with different materials, different types of artwork look better. There we go. That's basically ready to go. So let's print it. You have to have this Universal Laser Systems control panel installed on the machine that you're going to print from. It's probably generally easier to use the computer in C1 that's connected to the laser for this. What I normally do is I get my students to submit their Adobe Illustrator file. So if I had saved this, which I haven't done, get your students to do this. Now, the first time students use Illustrator, the program wants them to save their work on the Adobe Cloud. You don't want that in this case. Get the students to click the little "No, I don't want to do that" button so that they can save their file on their actual machine, because you need to get a copy of it into, well, in some way. I use Canvas. I just set up an assignment on Canvas and the students submit their artwork there so that I get the whole class set. Alright, so there's that. That's saved. Now, what I'm going to do is open my big laser template. So this is the one that you can get from Teams, and this is the full size of the bed of the laser. That's 600 millimeters wide by 300 tall. Now we're just doing a little simulation here of what it might be like if you had your class set of artwork. So I've got my one I just made, and I've got another one another kid has sent me. So what I'll do here is I'm going to select all. I'm going to group all of that so it stays together. Copy that and slap it into my blank template. There's one. Let's grab the other one. Same process. Copy, group, paste it in here. Right, and there they are. Now I'm going to sit them sort of next to each other. Let's line them up a little bit. You could use those align tools again to do that. Probably be a good idea. Okay, so you could fill up the whole sheet with that if you want. If you had a whole class set, that'll do for now. 2 will do me. So I'm going to print this, and I want to cut these key tags out of 3mm pine plywood. That's a good material for junior projects. You could also use acrylic. That'd be quite nice as well. You just have to do some experiments with the type of project you want to run with your class. So to do this, you have to have that Universal Laser Systems Control Panel software installed. This could be on the machine in C1, but I'm just going to go File, Print. You have to choose the printer. Now once you've got that control panel installed, your computer will know about this printer, the VLS 3.6075. That is the laser cutter. and we have to go setup, and usually you'll get a little box that'll pop up imploring you to use the new fancy Illustrator print settings, but we need the old-fashioned ones, so we have to use this old print preferences dialog here. And now we get this thing from Universal Laser Systems. So we need to choose the material and the intensity and the thickness for our artwork. So you can see there's this library of materials here. Most things you want to engrave will be in the list. If it isn't, you can create custom settings, but we're not going to do that for now. We'll just use one from the list. So I'm in natural materials, I am in wood, medium wood, and general medium woods. I have found if you add 20% here on the vector cutting intensity, works pretty nicely for that pine plywood. I'm also going to turn the raster engraving down a bit, about 20%. I found that works quite nicely. So I'll apply that. Now I've got to go and get plugged in to the laser. Okay, change of scene. I'm up the back of C1 now. I'm just going to redo that print setup. So everything's sweet, 3mm, general medium woods, intensities are adjusted, and I'm going to hit OK. Now you have to click print on the old print dialog, press print on the new print dialog, and then that will have sent your print instruction to the control panel. There it is. Okay, now because I now have the USB cord from the laser cutter connected to my laptop, you can see I can now activate the engraver with this button here. Okay, so just showing you the setup. Here is my laptop. It's plugged in with this USB cable. I usually have that plugged into the back computer here, but I can't screen record with that, so that's why I'm using my laptop today. The laser cutter is here. I've got my piece of material ready to go. That's a piece of plywood. Right, turning the machine on. This is the isolator switch here, standard isolator switch as on other TAS machines. You need to use your little 103 key. Insert the key, do not turn the key, that wrecks the locks. Very unintuitive design. You insert the key and turn the switch. To turn it off, you don't actually need to have the key inserted, you can just do that. Makes it easy to switch it off at the end of the lesson. But to turn it on, key in, turn switch. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to put my piece of plywood into the machine, onto the honeycomb bed. There it is. Just going to make sure that everything looks okay. So I've got my artwork here. Check to see that the lines are the colour that you expect. If they're not, you've made a mistake in Illustrator and you'll have to go back and fix it, otherwise it won't cut or engrave properly. But this looks okay. My red lines are red, my blue lines are blue, and my raster artwork is black or grey, so I'm happy with that. Alright, this cupboard here is just your 002 normal workshop cupboard key. In here I have the fan turning on stick. You've got to switch this on up here. Okay, that's one part of the extraction system. Worthy of note is that this switch here needs to be on for the big exhaust fan up the back of the room to work. So pretty much leave that on all the time, but sometimes people turn it off because they don't know what it is. This is the filtration unit, power button and a flow control. Usually about 1 o'clock position works fine for most things. If you're generating more smoke for some reason, you could turn it up a bit. 12 o'clock would be about the minimum for anything we would normally use at school. So if you just leave it there and keep an eye on it, things should be fine. Alright, so the laser is now activated. It's worth noting that these little lights here do not actually mean that the laser is turned on properly. These get power via the USB cable. It's really easy to get fooled by that. You think the machine's on but not working because you can see those. You do have to check that it's on there. Okay, so I've got my plywood in the bed of the machine. I've got my artwork ready to go. What I can do now is position my artwork so that it is in some particular location on the bed. It's really good to make use of scrap material. this way, so I'm going to use this little area here. I think that'll be big enough for my parts. Let's see if it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, we've got some tools in Universal Control Panel. I'll try and avoid the reflection on my screen. Okay, this one here is the relocate view. Click that and you can use the mouse button, you can use the mouse then to drag your artwork around wherever you want to put it. Now I'm just going to guess roughly where that was on that piece of plywood. I want to use this little area on the plywood here. So back to the computer again. There's another tool, this tool here called Focus View. You can use that, and wherever you click on the screen, the laser will move its little red dot too. So I'm going to move that to where I guessed this artwork was going to fit. And we'll have a look. Did I get it right? Not quite. So you can either move the artwork or you can physically move the piece of plywood. Either way works. So I'm just going to grab that and move it across a tiny bit. And let's try that again. So I can zoom in here and find the top right hand corner of that part. Click there. And now you can see the little indicator laser is on the material. Now let's double check. I'll try the bottom left hand corner. The same thing again. Yep, cool, that's just barely fitting in there on the material, so I'm happy. I could probably move that down a little bit and be a bit more efficient, but I'm not going to do that. Just editing this now, it's occurred to me that I didn't explain most of these tools very well. Now, you've got a few little things here you can do. This button here that's greyed out on my screen at the moment, two-pointer, this is extremely useful. So if you get the little red indicator laser to a particular spot on the bed, you can then use any of these handles on the artwork or on the object, pick one of them and then click two-pointer and it will move that particular part of the artwork to wherever you've got the little red laser pointer. So that's the easiest way to move your artwork to the exact place you want, which can be useful if you're trying to work around cutouts from previous jobs. This button here is used for, as it says, duplicating things. If you want to create like a rectangular pattern of parts, if you're making multiples of the same thing, that's pretty useful. If you want to know whether your job is going to get finished during the remainder of the lesson, this button here estimates how long the print or cut operation is going to take. It's reasonably accurate, good enough to give you an indication. These buttons up here, you can use these to manually move the laser cutting head left, right, or X, Y and Z basically. So you've got X and Y here, and this is for moving the table up and down. I almost have never used that. I just use the buttons on the machine on the odd occasion that I actually want to do that. Okay, so we've got to turn several things on now. And by several things, I mean the filtration system, the extractor fan, and the laser itself. Normally, if you're plugged into the machine, there'll be a little red button up in the top right-hand corner of this control panel. You just click that, the laser will start up and it'll initialize and go through its homing procedure, find where its X and Y home positions are, make a few little noises, and then it will be ready to go. And when that happens, you'll have a green start button here available. Alright, now the extractor has started up. I'm closing the lid on the laser. Everything's happy here. You can either click the green button there or you can just press the start button here. And there we go. The laser is starting out with the raster engraving. You can sort of see that there going left and right and raster engraving that artwork. And on your screen, it will show you what it's doing. So it's doing that raster engraving first. Now this is a good time to check your extractors set appropriately. I can see all the smoke from the laser is being sucked to the back and out of the machine. If smoke was building up in here, that would tell you something is wrong. Either your extractor is not turned up high enough or there's some other problem with the extraction system. You should not see a lot of smoke. Right, the sound has changed now because it's vector engraving. That's kind of fun to watch. And now it's vector cutting. which is the same thing but slower basically, so it applies more heat to the surface. There, now that's finished. Got to wait till the laser is finished moving, and it's a good idea just to do nothing for 30 seconds or a minute, because that'll allow all the residual smoke to get sucked out of the system. That wood will keep off-gassing for a little while and it'll stink, so if you can be patient and just leave it sitting in there for 30 seconds. I'm not patient, so I'm going to pull that out now and turn the extractor off. This sticks for people who aren't super tall to turn that off. Nice camera work there. Alright, so let's see what we got. You can take this out now and we'll see if our settings were correct. Yep, that's popped out nicely. We'll bring this out onto the bench. Okay, so they came out reasonably well. No major complaints there. If the parts fall apart with minimal effort, you've got the intensity settings correct. So I'm quite happy with that. Alright, so that's a pretty good little 1 or 2 lesson Year 7 project. Obviously put a little bit more time into the artwork than that, but that's the basics.